Good afternoon, all. I realize it's been a while since I did a book review, mainly because I've been trying to find strange movies and or TV series to review for you, and I do have a couple more of those that I'm going to be talking about shortly. But I wanted to do a book review just to sort of break things up, break up the monotony, as it were. I recently finished reading this book. I don't know if you can see the cover, Tears and Rain by Rosa Montero. Now, as those of you who've been following these videos know, I'm a big fan of the movie Blade Runner, and that title, Tears and Rain, is a direct reference to Rucker Hauer's speech as Roy Batty in the finale of Blade Runner, where he says that famous ad-libbed text line about Tears and Rain. He says, "I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I saw sea-beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All these moments will be lost, like tear in time, like tears in rain. Time to die," and then he does die, albeit slowly. But this book is not in the Blade Runner universe. In fact, it takes place in the 22nd century, in the year 2109. But there is a population of both humans and androids on the Earth, and they are referred to as replicants, based on the popularity of that term in Blade Runner. Though in the book, they were not created by the Tyrell Corporation. They were created by a company called Vitae in Brazil. But again, they were almost identical to human beings. As in the film, there were originally four different types. There were combat models, computation, exploration, and there was a pleasure model as well, but the pleasure models were rather quickly banned. And there is no prohibition against them living on Earth either, as in the movie, but they're not exactly popular with everybody, I should say. Though it's supposed to be an egalitarian society, it takes place in Madrid, not in Los Angeles. A number of ecological disasters have occurred due to global warming. London has sunk, Manhattan has sunk, Amsterdam has sunk, and people visit them in like submarines and what's called wet tourism. There were a series of wars fought by both humans and robots, and to some extent replicants. There was the robot war and the rep war and a couple of others, and finally they came to a truce. Humans have discovered a couple of species of humanoid aliens by the fact that they invented a working teleportation device, though the teleportation device has some drawbacks. If one uses it too often, one can become subjected to mutation through something called teleportation syndrome. And apparently you're really limited to like 6 trips, and that's it. If you do any more, you do it at your own risk, because your DNA can become damaged by the process, which I thought was kind of an interesting concept. The book is about a detective named Bruna Husky, who is a combat replicant and private detective, and she is attacked by one of her neighbors, who is also a replicant, named Kata Kane, and she tries to strangle her to death. And then, after she is unsuccessful in that attempt, she pulls her own eye out and dies as a result of doing that. She finds out through a series of contacts that she has, including her friend Habib, who is also a replicant, and a person who's high up in the government, that this is not the first one of these strange attacks that has occurred. There have been 2 or 3 others where very similar circumstances have happened. And people think that replicants can be implanted with false memories. They don't have any memories of their own, obviously, because they're created. They also, like the movie, they have a limited lifespan, but in this book, it's 10 years, not 4 years. And then they die from something called TTT, or they're referred to technically, actually, as techno-humans, not replicants. And TTT stands for total techno tumor, which is not a tumor. I'm not going to say that. I'm tempted to say that in the Arnold voice from Kindergarten Cop, but I'm not going to. But what it really is a breakdown of the organic systems, and it causes death in a month or two. It's not a quick process, and apparently not very pleasant. But again, and in the opening of the book, we find out that Bruna has 4 years, 3 months, and 22 days to live, ostensibly, and I'll get into that a bit more. I'm not going to reveal the entire plot to you because I think you should read the book. It's really interesting. It's very well written. I should note this was originally written in Spanish and it's been translated into English, so there may be some subtleties that have been lost. I found out one thing because that I had to look up. These aliens that were contacted, they're like 3 or 4 different species. One of them is called the Omaa, Omaa, and they are semi-transparent. You can see through their bodies into their organs, and people are upset by this, so they wear T-shirts and things to prevent them from seeing that. And they used a term, and it's not supposed to be used, called bichos for aliens. And I wondered what that meant, and I looked up, it means vermin. So that tells you a little bit about this society, that they're not entirely accepting, and they're not entirely non-racist. There are two parties. There's a party called the Radical Replicant Movement, or RRM, and the Human Suprematist Party, and that's the HSP, and they are anti-replicant and radically so. They think they should all be wiped out, and that they're second-class citizens, etc. Well, anyway, Bruna is hired by the head of the RRM, one named Miriam Chi, and I think that's a reference to the character in Blade Runner 2049, the prostitute who slept with Kay while Joy sort of inhabited her, was named Miriam. And I think that's kind of a little bit of a dig, or maybe just a reference to that character. But anyway, she's received a disturbing video that shows her being eviscerated, and and nobody could get in or out of her office. Her office is sealed. The only two people who could get in are her secretary, who she loves, and her assistant, who is above suspicion. But she wants Bruna to investigate this, and also tells her about this series of strange deaths that seem to be occurring amongst the replicants, where they gouge their eyes out or they gouge somebody else's eyes out. This has happened apparently a couple of times. Well, this takes her and Bruna into a completely wild series of adventures and into a vast-ranging conspiracy, which may even entail people from these two quote-unquote floating worlds. There are two colonies in space on big space stations. One of them are called the Labrists, after their leader, that are the cult of the One, who are radical Christians, basically, and they don't allow either aliens or replicants to live on their floating world. And then the other one is called called Cosmos, and it's sort of a communist regime, and it's just as oppressive as like Soviet communism. They'd have no religion, they have no money, they have no beliefs, but they don't allow replicants in their or aliens in their colony either, and they're very autocratic, basically. It's supposedly a free democracy, but they don't act like a democracy. They act like a dictatorship, and they're very strict. They may even be involved in this conspiracy, and also some of the aliens might be involved. It's very weird, very complex. Again, I'm not going to give away the details because I think you should read it. The way that it's written is very Phil Dickian, if I may use the term. Dick liked to use a lot of weird, strange distractions. He talked about Martian wub fur carpets and things like that, and people living on satellites, and a lot of sky trains and all that. A lot of those things are in this book, and it's really quite interesting. It's very well written. I highly recommend it. Again, Tears and Rain by Rosa Montero, and there's a very surprise ending, which I was trying to figure out who the killer or the perpetrator of the conspiracies rather were, and I didn't get it. I would never have thought of the person and or persons, since it's not just one, who were involved with this, and it is revealed at the end in a very satisfying way, and is really quite a good book. I highly recommend it.